the book of Revelation. I think I finally get what it means. Over the past few weeks, I've been looking closely at the book of Revelation, and I think I'm getting more and more of understanding of what's going on with it. My purpose over the coming weeks as we go through the book of Revelation is to understand, to explain it simply and clearly, and for us to read together as we go through and understand what's going on, and then to do a little bit of applying to our lives at the end of each video. So it'd be a great idea for you to read along, pause the video if you have to, read the passage on Bible Gateway or yourself or in the Bible, and then come back to the video because I want to simply explain what's going on and go through each section of Scripture. So this morning we have Revelation chapter 1 verses 1 to 3. I'll just point out Revelation 1:1, the revelation of Jesus Christ that God gave to him to give to his servant John. The word revelation, and the first few words in the book of Revelation say it's a revelation. It simply means to reveal, to show that which was hidden. And so the book of Revelation, there's really two things that are being revealed that we need to understand. The first is to do with the concrete situation that people who this letter is written to find themselves in. The Christians in the Roman provinces of Asia were under immense pressure. They were living in the world, but not of the world. And they were under immense pressure to worship pagan idols and other gods. There was economic benefit to do that. There was getting along with society. There was all sorts of reasons why they should do that. And there was huge pressure on them to do that. And so they're under a lot of persecution, and some of them may even die for their faith. So this book is written, John's writing it, to give them a perspective on God and a prophetic word for their specific context and for what they're going through and how to resist pressures and to live for God. But you see, it's also written not just for thousands of years ago, but it's also written for people like us today to pick up this book and to read through and to see God's purposes for history. Because we're going to get an inside view. We're going to be brought up into the middle of God's throne room. We're going to be brought into the engine room and find out God's sovereign purposes for this world. As you read through the Bible and as you hear of Psalms and things like that talking about God's throne, and he lives on a sovereign throne above all the earth, and he is all-powerful and all good, and he gives all things, and he produces everything. As we hear that God is sovereign, what an amazing opportunity to come right into his throne room and to see exactly the levers that he's pulling, where history is going, what's going on with the world, what's his ultimate purpose of human history. That is, Revelation is designed to reveal the hidden nature of what God would have for the people who are under persecution and being pressured to conform to the world around them, and for us to get a transcendent view on what God's purposes are for history. But you can see that actually means something for us today. Let's apply this. Because the point is, this is not just written for Christians who are suffering or being persecuted. The point is, if you follow Jesus, the suffering servant, if we're not being persecuted or we're not feeling some pressure of being in the world but not of the world, we're not really doing it right. If we're following Jesus the Master, the one who has gone to the other side of heaven, and we are headed on that path, we will feel pressured to conform to the world. Listen to what Richard Balcombe says about the readers in that day who heard this message. See, we may think that all of them are facing persecution and they're all poor people and so on, but listen to what he says. He says, by no means all of the readers of Revelation were poor or persecuted by an oppressive system. Many were affluent and many were compromising with the oppressive system. Listen to this. for these Christians, the judgments which are so vividly described in the rest of the book of Revelation should appear not as judgments on their enemies, as much as judgments they themselves were in danger of incurring, since worshipping the beast was not something only their pagan neighbours did. Worshipping the beast was something many of John's Christian readers were tempted to do and were actually doing. What he's saying is, we're going to see beasts and stuff later on, but what he's saying is, this book was written not just for poor and persecuted, oppressed Christians, but for Christians who were living at the time, who were rich and affluent, who wanted to deal in business, who wanted to be part of the world, but they were in the world, but they're not of the world, and they were tempted as much as other people to worship the beast, meaning to take part in sacrifice and to other gods and to worship other things. And so really, this whole book is about worship and about who we worship, and whether we live for the gods of sex, money and power and the things that the world gives, or whether we are living for Jesus and we are worshipping him and our lives are centered on him. And so this has something to say to us. The application is, we are all pressured. So many of us are pressured to conform to the world and to follow the ways of the world. And this is very much a letter for us. And so I look forward to unpacking more Revelation as we go through it. See you tomorrow.